Coming up in the 80s on Wall Street, it was like a big thing. What was so crazy about the 80s? Prior to about 1980, you couldn't cold call. You couldn't sell securities over the telephone. So all of a sudden, a bunch of very aggressive young guys said, you know what? I don't want to wait for clients to walk in. They came up with this whole plan. They went to the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, and all of a sudden, Wall Street was introduced to Main Street.
All right, guys, got a legend here today, Ross Mandell. What a crazy first time meeting. You knew the previous guest's father.
Isn't that crazy?
Small world.
It's a small world. It's a shock. She was a very good-looking woman. I just thought she was somebody else, and I wanted to say hey. And she says, Annabella Rockwell. A shout out to Thorson Rockwell. Worked for me in the stock market years ago, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you said you've employed over 100,000 people?
Well, I wouldn't say 100,000 people, but thousands and thousands, yes.
Wow.
Thousands and thousands of stockbrokers I worked with, or they worked for me, or we worked together and all that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, coming up in the 80s on Wall Street, it was like a big thing. And people say, why? What was so crazy about the 80s? Well, you know, prior to about 1980, you couldn't cold call. Something that everybody's so used to, the phone ringing, hanging up on people, you know, telemarketing, all that. But prior to the 80s, you couldn't sell securities over the telephone. So all of a sudden, a bunch of very aggressive young guys sitting in Lehman Brothers on 55 Water said, you know what? I don't want to wait for clients to walk in. They came up with this whole plan. They went to the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, and they got permission and approvals through corporate, through their firm and all that, to cold call securities, telemarket securities. And all of a sudden, Wall Street was introduced to Main Street for the first time in history. And, you know, it's created a whole bunch of growth. And that's why when they talk about the bull market of the 80s, this is what blew it up. Because prior to that, you know, you had to be a wealthy guy or an institution, and you would make an appointment to see your financial advisor.
Yeah.
And you come down to Lower Manhattan or Chicago or LA, and you'd go up into this ivory tower, and you'd sit down, you make an appointment, and you lay out all your stuff. All of a sudden, you got a bunch of very young, hungry guys calling you in your house, calling you in your business, calling you, you know, everywhere.
Yep.
And so that's what really caused the markets to blow up. So when I started in the business, the Dow Jones was at about 1,000.
Jeez.
1,200. Okay? It took 4 or 5 years just to get to 2,000. That was a huge, huge deal. Today, the market went down over 1,000 points today. Talking about inflation. What? I mean, that's a crazy story if you think about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's come full circle. I mean, all of a sudden, I used to be the crazy young, wild stockbroker. And then all of a sudden, now I'm like the old stockbroker. I'm the old man. I'm the OG. You know,
Yeah.
Of course, I'm not in the business anymore, but very close to the markets, and created a curriculum called the Wealth Formula. Because over the course of my life, people have been coming to me. You know, Mr. Mandell, Ross, I've been training people on Wall Street. I've been training some of the most alpha males on Wall Street. And then, you know, I went to prison. And when I was in prison, I was teaching the stock market, the wealth formula, how to turn an idea, a product, a service into a business, how to go from zero to $1 million business. You know, not everybody went to Rutgers. Not everybody went to University of Maryland. Not everybody has a Wharton, Stanford, MBA.
Yep.
And kids don't know. I mean, I was in a place where kids never had kids, 30-year-old people never had a checking account, never filed a tax return. And all of a sudden, they, you know, these are not stupid people. They just grew up in a bad neighborhood. They had no guidance. The streets were all they knew, the neighborhood, et cetera. And, you know, they had no nurturing, no parenting. And so they were sort of off the reservation, if you will.
Right.
And they would come to me and they say, Mr. Mandell, I got a great idea. You know, my wife, my girlfriend, my cousin, my aunt has this, has that. How do we turn that into a business? And like, well, do you know how to incorporate? They're like, what's that? I mean, so I created a sort of a one-stop shop program. It's called the Wealth Formula. You can go to rossmandell.com, 2 S's, 2 L's, and it actually goes on sale. My partner's Brad Lee.
Nice.
In Nevada. Lightspeed VT. one of the best companies, if not the leading company in this genre
Yep.
anywhere. And we're launching the Wealth Formula, which is 108-page text with about 250 hyperlinks that shows you where the source material comes from. And then 13 modules of video, of beautifully produced video that's very entertaining, that helps walk you through the actual text, because we all know text can be a little boring.
Yeah.
And we live in a sort of a show-me society, and people want to see video. And so I do my best to make it entertaining, energetic, funny, and I litter it with personal experiences along the way. I don't just tell you something; I tell you how I learned it, and I give you an experience. I give you a history lesson from what deal it was done in, all this and that, and it's really an incredible, comprehensive course.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm very, very excited. It goes on sale next week.
That's cool. I like when you can take action right away.
Yeah, you have to.
I'm not a fan of the courses where they just teach you like hypothetical situations.
Mine is real life, and it's my story is very public. My story's out there, so
Yeah.
And I tell stories, legit stories, how I got screwed over on Wall Street, and that's how I discovered X, and how I did this deal, and that's where I got to Y, and so it makes it a lot more relatable. You're looking at a guy like me. I'm a plain speaking fellow. I'm not highfalutin. I'm not a Rockwell. I'm just playing, and people can relate to me because I keep it simple.
Right. And you had humble beginnings too.
I had very humble beginnings. I really did. When I was 16, grew up in a middle-class family, middle-class neighborhood, and we were living the American dream. We had everything, we thought. And then my father passed away suddenly. He just died of a heart attack.
Wow.
16 years old. I was 16 years old. He was 48.
Damn.
My mother was 39. And I woke up a day later and found out that everything we owned was mortgaged, borrowed, or leased.
Damn.
The American dream, bro. We own nothing, and we're just living, they were just grinding, my parents, to pay for a better life for their kids. Can you relate to that, anybody out there? And I became very angry and very bitter. I just sort of kind of went nuts. I was like the kind of kid you stayed away from. I went from being a great kid on a wrestling team, the football team, a straight A student, and I went sort of crazy.
Wow.
And I was very angry. I was angry at God, and I was angry at circumstances, and I just acted out. I just said, screw it. If you could just drop dead like that, what the hell am I, towing the line for? I drank, I smoked, I took pills. I had random wild sex with strangers, and I just went nuts, really. And luckily, I had been such a good kid and such a good student. I got into all these colleges early. So right away, they pushed me through, and I was in school, and I hooked up with a very aggressive crowd. You know how it is in school, right? You find like-minded people. So all the kids that like to do drugs and party and hang out and run around with women, we all found each other somehow. And we had this crazy, great time in college. But when we got out, which I actually graduated early, which is a crazy story. Yeah.
So
Because
you were still doing good in school?
Well, here's the thing. I didn't, but we figured out a way to finagle our way through. And because I was a reader all my life, and I love to read, and I'm very book smart that way, and so I was able to get through school. In fact, guys used to steal exams, before the test, and bring them to me, and I fill in the answers for them.
Wow.
I'm good like that, and I used to be, at least. And I got out early, and they put me in a family business. I was selling ladies' handbags. And we found out I was a pretty good salesman. I happen to love people. I'm chatty, and I'm a guy's guy. I love women, and women found me cute, and we're doing great. But, I was with a bunch of very aggressive young kids in college. And back in 1982, they found Wall Street. We used to go to the clubs in Manhattan. And we'd see these guys, everybody's waiting out line at Studio 54. There'll be thousands of people on 54th Street out line. Don't let people in. And we'd watch all these celebrities going in. But there were some guys pull up in Ferraris and in limousines, and in Bentleys, Lamborghini, you name it. And they always had the hottest women, and they'd come out and they'd toss the keys to some valet kid, and the ropes would open, thousands of people waiting, and they would go right in.
Wow.
And they would be sitting at the best tables in the best section in the clubs. And, I'm an aggressive type of kid, usually stoned. And I would just go up to these guys, and I would be like, excuse me, you're like a really cool guy, and you're with the best looking woman, and you got a great car, and you're sitting at the best table. Can I ask you, what do you do? And, men generally like to talk about themselves.
That's true.
That's why you got me here. That's why he's got the #1 podcast in America, this kid.
I have on a lot of guys that like to talk about themselves.
What? And women.
And women.
People generally like to chat about themselves, when someone asks me about myself, I get to talk about myself. I'm my own favorite subject.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So guys would say, yeah, I'm a trader, or I'm a stockbroker, or I'm an investment banker, or I'm an arbitrageur. They're like, what's that? Well, we take advantage of economic dislocations. I'm like, I don't know what that means, but where do I sign up? So in 1983, I went down to Wall Street, and I like everything else in my life, I finagled my way in, and got into, because I was still using and drinking heavily. And I got into the E.F. Hutton training program. And at that time, there were like 3 training programs that were like legit, heads and shoulders above everything else. There was Merrill Lynch, there was E.F. Hutton, and there was Dean Witter. And everything else was like just sort of a lower level way of trying to get into the markets. It was much more difficult. And, when you are addicted to drugs, addicted to alcohol, addicted to that life, it's expensive, Sean. It is not cheap to be in Manhattan, living it up, spending money, going out every night, drinking, drugging. And so I needed money. So I learned how to sell stocks and do investments, so to speak, over the phone. And I became like sort of a stud, a celebrity at that. And it didn't matter how difficult the situation was. On a day like today, most financial guys are hiding from their phone. When Mrs. Winthrop calls, they're like, tell her I'll call her back, I'm in a meeting. People get nervous, anxious, shy. I'm telling you to spend all your money on X, and all of a sudden X is down 20%, and you're like, what? And I was never afraid to speak to people in the worst of times. And I always made my fortunes in the worst of times. And I can tell you this today, we are heading into the worst of times.
Wow.
This country is and I love this country.
What if Trump wins?
Trump is a hope we have. Trump is a business guy. He's a smart guy. I lived in Trump Towers. I lived in Trump World Tower for 6 years. I did a couple of deals with Donald Trump, and a lot of people have an opinion of him. They never met him, they never spoke to him, and they never did a deal with him.
Yeah, facts.
Well, I lived in one of his buildings, and I did 2 deals with him. And I could say one thing: he's a tough guy, but he's honest. He's a straight shooter, and he lives up to his word. And I bought 2 apartments from him and sold. And I lived in the building, and it was the best experience that you could have.
Wow.
I wrote a book called Rock Solid, also available on my website, the ebook, Rock Solid by Ross Mandell, rossmandell.com. And I say, for any of you that think that money can't buy happiness, you never lived in a Donald Trump building. Because that was the bomb, bro. I had a beautiful 2,200 square foot apartment, floor to ceiling, 10-foot glass windows. Or eastern exposure, southern exposure, and western exposure. I had a corner apartment,
cool.
Magnificent, all glass, smoked out glass, 90-story building. And I actually lived in most of the time in Florida or London, but I kept an apartment in the city. And myself and my family loved it. In fact, my oldest daughter learned how to swim down in the swimming pool in Trump Tower.
Nice.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, he could probably prolong it a bit, but I think the economy is pretty...
Well, look at the country. Imagine this country with $35 trillion in debt. The interest just to carry that debt is $1 trillion a year. That's more than a entire defense budget.
Jeez.
which is the biggest line item in our. We're suffering from terrible inflation right now. The inflation rate is slowing, but the prices are huge. We're struggling with an energy situation, problems with jobs. There is the open border. Inner cities laden with crime right now. All my friends left New York City.
Wow, it's that bad there?
It's so dangerous.
Damn.
Friends that have been living there that said, I'll never leave, they all left. Companies moving out, Chicago, L.A., New York. The cities are a wreck. If Trump wins, there's a chance we can right this ship. But in order for the ship to right, the markets have to correct themselves. The markets, the free market, is a self-correcting mechanism. It'll go up, it'll go down. There are certain economic principles and psychological principles that apply to it. I think that if Trump wins, it's going to be very good for corporate America and very good for America, especially economically. Mm-hmm. But there's going to be a lot of cultural issues. You know, the Democrats are not going to go quietly into that good night. You're going to have riots and all these different things, and there's going to be a lot of upset liberals, etc. And I'm not political. And if Kamala Harris wins, I don't know what's going to happen. But I can tell you, we're still $1 trillion. We owe $1 trillion in debt, and that's before we paid off a penny of principal.
Crazy.
And we're still borrowing. We're borrowing every day. So Japan's market crashed 12.5% last night. The Bank of Japan dumped $24 trillion in United States treasuries. How long before China and Russia do the same? You know, there's a big movement now internationally to remove the dollar as the reserve currency. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And, you know, Trump is so smart. He comes out and he says, Bitcoin, crypto. He sees that future. There's no other way. The dollar's gone. It's toast. The BRICS countries, the BRICS alliance is bigger than the Western alliance now. Brazil, Russia, India, South Africa. I mean, you're talking about they're bigger than we are from a GNP standpoint. We have really, if this country is the corporation of the United States, gross mismanagement.
Wow.
Everybody would be, all of Washington would be fired. I mean, let's just keep giving the Ukraine hundreds of billions of dollars while we're in debt for a war that can never be won. Does that make any sense to anybody? You know, not to me. It's all political. Everybody's getting kickbacks and all kinds of crazy going on there. And I'm not a political guy, but whoever wins, the market is got to go down, and I would say roughly in half.
Damn, it's already pretty low right now.
Well, it's down a few thousand points. This is nothing, bro.
Really?
In 1987, I was sitting on Wall Street. I had $100 million I'm managing. And the Dow Jones goes down 25% in one day.
Damn.
And that's just the 30 most important, biggest companies in our world. Went down 25% in one day. That's the equivalent of today. It went down 10, if it goes down 10,000 points. We only went down 1,000 points. But what you don't hear about that day, the rest of the market, the rest of the stocks went down 40, 60, 80, 100% in one day.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was just bad, bro. And it's going to be rough going for this country and for most businesses. My man is in the right business, and I'm going into the media business. Raw Media is a company that is being developed right now in conjunction with some really smart guys, and Brad Lee in Nevada, and I'm talking to your boy Justin as well.
Justin Waller.
Your boy.
Oh, Justin Wall, yeah.
Yeah, and it's this is the new media. You know, people don't watch CBS, ABC, NBC anymore. Most people don't even buy televisions anymore. Most young people.
Only smart TVs.
Right. And my kids watch TV on their phones. They watch Netflix and Hulu, and that sort of thing. And so there's been a change, because when we say the media business, my generation, people in the marketplace, they look at the traditional media, and that's already gone. You're getting more eyeballs than almost 90% of any TV scheduled show.
Yep.
But yet you're not making that money.
No.
You're not charging the advertising.
I am, but it's not enough, yeah.
Well, you're not charging the advertising that someone on the major networks
Right.
charging
Right.
that has a fraction of your eyeballs.
Yeah, you see Mr. Beast dealing with this too.
Correct. So now if you put together a few guys like yourself, like Brad, like Mr. B, the boys, as a group, you got your own network. There's a media company. It just has to be positioned. It's got to be tweaked. There's got to be an architect. There's got to be a little financial
Right.
engineering. But that's it. The hard work's done. The
Yeah.
hard work's done. It's an unbelievable thing.
It's a good model. Yeah, Patrick Bet-David's doing it.
Correct.
Ben Shapiro.
Correct. They see it. They see it.
Yep.
Patrick Bet-David, very smart guy.
Very.
Yeah, he sees it.
Yeah.
And so, and there's power in that. There's power in the eyeballs.
Absolutely. So you're fully out of stocks right now?
I am fully out of stocks right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're not taking this loss that everyone else is dealing
I'm
with.
very
right
happy right now.
now. Any crypto?
Depends who's asking.
Ah, smart answer. I got wrecked this week.
I'm sure you did.
Dude.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
I'm sure you have been.
But crypto's pretty volatile, so I've seen this before.
It is. I think it's a great opportunity to buy Bitcoin. It's a great entry point for Ethereum. Really like Ethereum long term.
That's my biggest bag.
Yeah, that's the way to go. And if Bitcoin gets a little cheaper, I think it becomes more exploitable. The big boys are in them now.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know-
the ETFs, right?
Blackstone, Vanguard, Fidelity. This is like my generation.
You think that's good or bad? Because you were dealing with these guys years ago.
I think that it's a very good thing.
Okay.
It means that it's not going to take as long for them to come back. They're not going to ever get as beat up. They'll get beat up, but you have that underlying support. These boys control trillions and trillions of dollars. So when they put some capital to work, there's a underlying layer of support. Prior to them coming in, something like Bitcoin could go down to 3,000 a coin. It could go back down.
Wow.
If they weren't in. But see, I know these guys are greedy. They'll never let it go that low because they're in. They're vested now. You understand?
Yeah.
So there's an underlying level of support because they have more money than most countries do.
Right. So they would do that with stocks?
They do that with stocks. They're going to have to backstop the market, sure. But they're also going to buy, I've made the majority of my capital in the worst of times. When times are good, we tend to, whatever our income is, when you're a kid, and you're struggling in business, you make it $5,000 a month, you spend it. You save a little bit, but you spend it. And then all of a sudden, you do great, you're making $10,000, $20,000 a month. You get a better car, you pay more insurance, you get a better apartment, you spend more money on rent, you take your girl out for better dinners, you go on better vacations. Before you know it, you're spending your income.
Right.
The way real wealth is created or constituted is from earning chunks of equity. Like, I hate to say it, but the majority of people in this country have little or no net worth. Basically, they moved in a home, they lived there for 30 or 40 years, they bought it for like $30,000, and now it's worth $1.3 million. And when they sell it and they get their condo in Florida, they just became millionaires. They have $1 million. That's how the majority of, sort of my generation have done it.
Right.
Your generation is much more clever with crypto and just sort of cool stuff that a lot of people don't really understand.
Internet money, they call it.
Yeah, I love that. See, I don't even know that expression. Right?
Wi-Fi money.
Wi-Fi. I love that. I
Yeah.
love it, and it's relevant. I mean, it's the real thing. I have a very open mind and an open eye to all these. I think that great vision is had by the youth, the up and coming guys, not the regular youth. The regular youth are a bunch of young, stupid kids. But look at a guy like you. Look at Justin. You kids in Rutgers, and look what you've made of yourselves. You had a vision, and you worked hard, and you stuck at it, and there's something special about you. And I watch guys like you, guys like him, and I watch his whole podcast movement grow. I mean, there were people that didn't believe the internet was going to be around.
Right.
I mean, how crazy! I mean, it takes a minute for an establishment to become fully accepting. They still haven't accepted digital currency or cryptocurrency,
No.
but that's coming. So smarter, older people are starting to buy some. It's a very, very interesting proposition.
Yeah, it took podcasts years. Rogan was doing it for like 5 years before people really started making them.
He was, and it makes such sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I record your podcast. I go to YouTube. I watch it when I want. No interruptions. I can stop it and start it. Come back in an hour. I could see who are your guests to see who's intriguing to me or who's interesting. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, it doesn't feel forced.
Right.
Sponsors love it. I know shows where my friends will go on, they'll make $100K in a day.
Yep.
Like just happened to my friend the other day.
Really?
They go on the right podcast, offer the right product, boom, 100 grand in an hour.
I get it 100%.
Yeah. These lives are like insane. I
Insane.
mean, Trump just did a live. Did you see it?
I heard about it. I didn't see it.
So 2 million viewers with Aiden Ross. He's a streamer.
How crazy.
If they promoted a product or a donation link even, would have done $10 million.
Just like that.
Easily.
Yeah. So the lives are really where it's at, right?
Yeah, the lives, podcasting, I think that's the future.
But I think you need to see, this is my take, because I've been looking at the industry. You need to offer a product. So I'm an educator now.
Yeah.
This was something that I wanted to do. I mean, some magazine just wrote a story about me.
Oh, yeah?
And they
Good or
s-
bad?
It turned out it was the best story anybody's ever written on me.
Really?
And I had no idea it was going to be like that. Yeah. And called Simply the Best Magazine, and it's a Florida magazine. They have 100,000 people that subscribe to this
Wow.
thing. And it says that a former Wolf of Wall Street is turned educator, and that's what I'm doing. I want to educate. I want to share. I'm in a situation now where my experience and my resume allow me this opportunity. It's not like I'm forcing it. I'm not like faking it. I think one of your guys over there in your production crew said, you're really an OG.
Yeah.
I am. I was famous. I was on the front page of newspapers long before social media and the internet.
Wow.
Most guys in this sort of business we're in now, before 2015 or 2010, try seeing what they've done. They'd never really done anything. I mean, I was in Forbes magazine, front page Wall Street Journal, front page 100 different newspapers, good stuff, bad stuff, like I always say good, bad, and ugly. But I was a big name, and I was accomplishing great things. I was the first American to take a regulated company public, a regular American business public on the London Stock Exchange. That stock exchange is 100 years older than the New York Stock Exchange. And I did it twice before anybody else did it once.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, and I created that footprint, that blueprint. I actually did something. I'm not famous because I'm big on social media. There was no social media.
Yeah.
I was making millions and moving markets and had thousands of people working for me and getting in all kinds of trouble and raising all kinds of hell.
I love it.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's real. I'm real. It's
Yeah.
I always say, you put me on camera, and people say, who the hell is this old guy with the big mouth? But when they look at me, when they Google me, they say, whoa, this guy's OG, is real. And so there are things that I can teach, even guys like you, smart guys like you, and people that are maybe not as smart as you and not as fortunate as you. And so I become an educator. And that's sort of my hook, because that enables a company that I create the opportunity to create revenue, profitable earnings. Now, once you have a company that's making $5 million a year, $10 million a year, $20 million a year, $40 million a year, Brad has companies under Lightspeed that make $5-6 million a month.
Yeah.
And I expect to be at that level soon enough. And so now that gives you the leverage, and it gives you the ability to pivot. You can go left, you can go right. There are different opportunities. Again, this is an advantage that I have. I have founded, funded, and floated, taken public, over 100 companies.
Dang.
There's not a handful of people in the world that can say that.
You might be the number one.
I'm right up there. But I'm also, doing it since 1983.
Yeah, Chamath might be up there too.
Oh, there's a few guys there, but most of those guys are not going to talk about it.
No, he did it through SPACs too, which is different.
Listen, my crew, the guys I grew up with in the business, we created SPACs.
Oh yeah?
We were doing SPACs in the 80s.
Wow.
And the SEC shut us down.
I didn't know it was around back then.
Nobody did, because they said, this is criminal, this is illegal, you guys are out of control. And then 30 years later, everybody's doing it.
Wow.
Right. We did the first pipe transactions, private investment on public equity. That's what they prosecuted me for in London. Today, They're doing $35 billion every month in American stock exchanges.
Holy crap.
They prosecuted me for bringing that to London.
You're like the weed dealer before weed was legal.
Thank you. Thank you. I actually did time with guys that were in jail for 20 years for some pot.
That's crazy to me.
And they tell the story that now, right in the neighborhood where they doing time, they said the crime was committed, they were prosecuted and jailed for. There's dispensaries all over. It's legal.
Nuts.
And they're in federal prison still.
Wrong time.
And it's still a Schedule I drug, like so you know.
Weed is right now?
Weed right now, federally.
What?
Like methamphetamine.
They lowered it by now.
Et cetera, fentanyl. They're intending to. The Biden administration has threatened to, reduce it, to take it down.
That's terrible.
But it's still somewhere somewhere in Congress. Think about that. How crazy.
Nuts.
This is our government that's telling us what's right and wrong and who to lend money to. That they have marijuana as a Schedule Class I drug all these years. Does that make any
Makes no sense. Look how much money Colorado's bringing in.
Right.
All the states where it's legal, bringing in so much money to its residents.
Right. In a country that's $35 trillion in debt. And we're still jailing people for it. Paying $35,000 a year for these guys to be in jail every year.
Terrible.
It's terrible. Think about the broken families on welfare and all this and that. It's just the decisions that come out of this Washington is just, it's frightening.
It upsets me because I pay hundreds of thousands of taxes a year and I see where it goes.
When do you start paying millions?
Probably next year, man.
That's
Let's
your
do
goal.
it.
That's
Let's
your
do
goal,
it.
baby. That's
I'm
your
down.
goal.
That's a good problem.
I have a friend. He said my goal is to pay $10 million a year in taxes. Why not?
a good goal.
Probably making $150 million at that point, right?
Yeah. Depends if it's business or personal, but yeah.
Yeah, it's all
Let's do it, dude. You've made and lost millions multiple times in your life.
tens of millions. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
this is Ross 3.0.
Wow, so this is the third time?
This is 3.0. Yeah,
Damn.
this is actually, it's this is my third real business life, and
Third time's the charm, right?
I'm telling you, bro, this is it. This is it. I'm 67. I mean, and I got another 5 years. Let's do it. But what the hell?
Wow, I love how you still have this energy at 67. That's impressive.
Oh my God! I'll be talking when I'm in my coffin, probably.
Wow.
Yeah, I love this podcast because they say, all right. I said, what do I have to do? They said, just go talk. I said, what do you mean? Just go talk. Be yourself. And, all right.
That's why podcasts are successful. It's not fake like the news.
It's so true. It's not staged. There's no agenda, right? I don't need, there was no prep, right?
Nope.
We didn't discuss it. You didn't say, Ross, I want you to do this. I just know it's a digital social hour.
Yep.
And it's a business podcast, essentially, right? But, you're so clever, bro.
Thanks, man.
Guys know he's 6'6".
Yeah, people don't know that.
And what a head of hair you got, bro.
Yeah.
When you get older, you start noticing everybody else's hair. When I was young, who cared, right?
Yeah.
When you get older, everybody you say, does that guy have hair? I wonder how old that guy is. Does he color his hair? I don't know. I don't see any gray hair. It's the funny that your perceptions change, what you look at and how you think. It's really,
Interesting.
really cool, bro.
Wow. Noted. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, and something. Someone said to me the other day, aging really sucks. And I was nodding my head, but then the alternative. What is the alternative? Dying young? I don't know. It's
Right.
horrible.
Well, there's guys aging backwards now. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Brian Johnson, a few people reversing it.
Today with peptides and medicines and all these therapies and, it's amazing. I
Yeah.
mean, really, it's like 60 is the new 40. When I was a kid, 40, when guy was 40, like so old. 67, I would be in a home already. Instead, I have this young hot wife and, hanging out. Young guys like you, we're podcasting, we're making content, we're posting on social media.
Yeah.
I'm doing selfies in Publix and Whole Foods, talking about the price of these eggs.
Those are expensive.
Bro, I'll tell you some funny stories. So, they have these like sort of, I guess, jobs at some of these supermarkets. And some of these kids are special. The corporations give them jobs as packers.
I've seen that.
So I'm doing a selfie about these eggs. They're organic. God forbid I bring home something that's not organic. God forbid. I'm banned for the house. Dad, bring them back. And then they have to be pasture raised. That's the new thing.
Right.
God forbid my cow didn't get massages or had to live in a cage. You know, he had to be free to roam the countryside, right? These cows are living better than we are. And that's half and half. Got to go?
Yeah. No, 5 minutes.
We're tight. And these eggs, I said, what are these magic hens? $11.49 a dozen. They're little brown eggs, but they're organic and they're pasture raised. And so I'm complaining on the selfie, and then the guy goes, "Yeah, but mister, these are the best eggs. You bought the best eggs."
$1 an egg?
And, you know, he's like, you know, some kid, and he's like lecturing my audience.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Used to be $1 for 12 when you were growing up, probably.
You have no idea.
Now it's $1 an egg.
I hate being like these old guys that talk about, I used to be $1. You know, I used to buy 2 slices of pizza and a Coke for $1
Damn. Inflation.
when I was a kid.
This isn't sustainable, man.
It's not sustainable. And I hate to say this, but inflation is the death of capitalism.
Wow.
Everyone says, so who cares? I'll make more money. Inflation equals the death of our society as we know it. And I'm not going to explain that to you because that'll take a half an hour.
Well, the average person can't out-earn inflation, in my opinion.
I agree.
I think guys like us possibly can, but
No, we can, and I have.
I have too, but
Yes.
most people
No.
don't have that skill set.
Struggling. People are struggling.
If you're working a regular job, you're not going to out-earn inflation.
Impossible. It's terrible. You know, someone said the average cost of living now in some city is $250,000 to be middle class. I'm
In
like,
San Fran, right?
what?
Yeah, crazy.
What? In San Fran, people sleeping in the streets. There's needles everywhere. People getting robbed.
Mm-hmm.
Stores are closing. I mean, that was my favorite city for many years.
I don't even wear a watch there anymore.
You ever go to San Fran?
Yeah, but I don't wear any jewelry or anything.
You can't. I mean,
get
you know,
robbed.
they'll steal you. Yeah, even if you got to be careful with your phone.
You can't even leave a backpack in your car there.
No, definitely not.
Even if it's empty.
Right? No. That's like asking for trouble.
Yeah.
But if a 6'6" young dude is worried, what chance does an old guy like me have?
Crazy, man.
You know?
Ross, it's been fun. Where can people find you, get your course, and learn more from you, man?
RossMandell.com. RossMandell.com. I'm on Facebook, Ross Mandell, Boca Raton. Instagram, Ross H. Mandell. At YouTube, The Real Ross Mandell. I'm on Twitter. I'm on TikTok. I mean, you know,
Boom.
what's an old guy doing on TikTok?
Actually, old people get a lot
Having
of views on
fun.
TikTok, dude.
Having fun.
Yeah.
We're having fun. We're
I'm
making
rooting for you.
content. Thank you, my brother.
do
Wealth
it.
Formula hits up next week. Sign up. You will not regret it.
Boom. Thanks for coming on, man.
Sure. Thank you for
Yeah,
having
thanks
me,
for coming
bro.
on.
This is
Thanks for
really
watching,
great.
guys. See you tomorrow.